All right, peace. This is Brother High John. We're going to be dealing with the movie Coming to America. This is the sequel to the original movie. I'm going to try to break it down real plain, real simple, make it very quick. And we're going to be dealing with, right off the bat, we're going to be dealing with archetypes. Now, archetypes are basically different positions of characters and different roles one plays in life or in a story, in a mythology, a fantasy, a fairy tale, and even in life, in real life. They're archetypes or prototypes of human behavior or behaviors of certain elements or behaviors of certain animals. These are archetypes, and they all fit in a position of roles within a storyline, right? So with these archetypes, you can study Carl Jung. You got Plato's theory of forms. The Phoenicians dealt with these archetypes. The Egyptians dealt with these archetypes. The last reference we can use is the best one because when we deal with West Africa and Central Africa, they have what you call the Orishas. And the Orishas have Oris that dwell in every individual human. So every individual human is under a archetype of an Orisha. Every individual human is under archetype under a Congo deity or Congo god, right? So West Africa is where the Yoruba, the Igbo, the Homi, the Iwe, the Fawn, the Dogon, all of these different groups that deal with these archetypes that preside over humans originate from in West Africa. Now in the Congo, that's Central Africa, pretty much is what the movie is based on, of the Luba people in Central Africa. So called the Kingdom of Zamunda. So I'm gonna deal with these archetypes. I'm gonna deal with each character one by one, and it's gonna unravel the mystery and help us get a clear breakdown of what I'm hinting at, what I'm getting at. So Prince Hakim is Legba or Eshu, right? He's the prince, right? To get a good grip on who Legba is, we can go to Egypt, and I'll basically make that very quickly understood. That's Horus or Heru, right? So the first character is Horus or Heru or Legba in West Africa, just so we can have a pinpoint of the archetype to be able to follow the mystery of this movie. You know, it's the central figure, the solar figure, the hero figure in the mythology, in any general mythology. Well, that's Legba in West Africa. Simi, they keep saying Simi in both movies. Simi is basically his sidekick, which is like his advisor, his guider. Simi is Tehuti. So in West Africa, Legba has a certain form, a lower aspect on one of his paths called Simbi, with a B, Simbi. Simbi and Simbi is one and the same. And in Egypt, he's called Tehuti. Now, who is the father of the king, the father of Prince Hakim, the king of all of Zamunda? The king of all of Zamunda is Obatala, right? Oba means king itself. Oba means king. So that's Obatala. In Egypt, that would be Osiris, Osar, the god of the white crown, right? So even Obatala is known to wear the white crown. Okay, yeah, we have to mention that the queen of Zamunda is Isis, or Aset. The queen of Zamunda is Aset, or Isis. Now the guard, the main guard, or the main servant of the kingdom of Zamunda, he represents Anubis, the god Anubis. Now, who is Lisa's father? Lisa's father is the elder brother that basically embodies a certain level of wisdom and guidance. Well, that would be Olodumare in the Yoruba, and Papa Denzu amongst the Vodun systems, and he will be Ptah, the god Ptah in Egypt. Atum or Ptah, or the god Bes in Egypt. Now we'll just be able to center it and get understanding on it. We'll say Ptah. So that's who Lisa's father is, the one who presides over the restaurant. He is Ptah, right? So we fit in all of the characters in their role in unraveling the spirits and deities, the African spirits and deities that presides behind the movie. Now, who is Lisa? Now, Lisa is the goddess named Anaisa. She will also be the goddess Oshun from the Yoruba, but Anaisa would be the Vodun or the Hoodoo or the Vodun aspect of her. Anaisa. In the Greek mythology, just so we can get an understanding of this, she would be called Persephone. Now, amongst the ancient Egyptians, she might be Hathor, Sekhmet, and those deities, those goddesses that preside over that form, right? Like Hathor. So her boyfriend in America that she was attached to, that Hakim had to take her from. His name in the Greek mystery is Hades. You see, amongst the Egyptians, Set. So that's basically Hades, the lord of the underworld. Now, the princess of the other kingdom that Akim was initially supposed to marry, her name is Imani Izzy, or Izzy, Princess Izzy. She's also another form of Oshun. Oshun has many paths. So if you look at those different paths, they correspond to different princesses and girls inside of the movie. In Egypt, they have many Hathors. It's the 7 Hathors. Well, each one of those different princesses in the movie Coming to America and Coming to America 2 are those different Hathors or those different Oshuns. There's a lot of daughters of the prince Akim. There's a lot of daughters of the king. There's a lot of daughters and girls, princesses that are on the side of the opposite, the neighbor's kingdom, the neighboring kingdom. So all of them different princesses is Oshun, Erzuli, or the 7 Hathors, right? The 7 Oshuns, really. So that ends up being the whole pantheon of deities. When they go to America, to the underworld, they see all of these different black people inside of the shop, inside of these different places they go, the apartment. Those all represent the ancestors. The ancestors that are trapped in the physical material world, the underworld. And trapped in what? Purgatory. All of the people that's in the palace of Zamunda, the castle of Zamunda in Africa, all of those beings are ascended ancestors that are basically in the spiritual world. Right? So hopefully you can understand that mystery. And basically that's quite almost very close to literal of what we really experiencing in this real life, this real world, outside of the movie. So I'm gonna move forward. So what did I say America was? America is the underworld, right? Or hell, right? Hell or the underworld. The Egyptians called it the Duat, etc., etc. Now, America being the underworld. Now, what is Zamunda? Zamunda is the spiritual world or the heavens, called the Aru fields, the Seker Aket. The Egyptians call it the Seker Aket or the realms of Aket. The Aru fields, the fields of the blessed, the fields of the Elysian fields is what the Greeks call it, and we West Africans, we call it the realm of Guinea, So that would be Zamunda. Now the castle of Zamunda would be Obatala's castle. In West African mythology, Obatala has this giant white castle, this divine castle in the spiritual world. The Hebrew or Christian cosmology that they speak of the Christ speaking on behalf of the Father, saying the Father has what? A mansion or a room with a mansion with many rooms, or has many mansions. Well, that basically represents this divine heavenly Jerusalem, this place where there's this giant temple in the spiritual world. Well, we Africans are the ones who originate that concept. They even call it the House of Osiris, right? The realm of Osiris, the White House. Well, that white palace, white house, white castle, white mansion as the mansion that the Christians speak of in Revelations and the New Testament. That basically, in our system in West Africa, would be the castle of Obatala. So, to know what we're speaking of and what we're saying, if you look throughout the second movie, they show many icons and iconography of these deities we speaking of. They show Erzuli or Oshun in many statues in the movie. She's scattered around, placed in the movie, her statues. We can see the crowns of Obatala around the movie. We can also see what's called the Benin bronzes or the Benin carvings all around the castle. And one thing about Benin that you have to understand, the country of Benin is the origins of the religious system or the spiritual system called Vodun. And I've been dealing with many Vodun deities in this text. You also see a lot of Yoruba type clothing. The Yoruba are out of Nigeria and out of Benin. And the Oyo or the Yoruba deities, which are the Orishas, you can see them spread around the movie. So I'm not just pulling references out of my behind. I'm saying basically for them to be able to create the setting of the castle and the movie, they have to have some level of knowledge of African spirituality and these African deities. So what I'm saying is just get a little bit more intimate and place each character under the deities, and then you have the whole mythology playing out. So let's break it down in the spiritual sense. Prince Akim, which we said is Legba, represents the soul itself, your own soul. Now, Simbi, or who is Simbi, the Vodun god Simbi, or Tehuti, represents the intellect or your knowledge, right? Knowledge of self, right? Knowledge of the spiritual world. Now, the soul and the knowledge of self or the intellect goes into the underworld of the physical world, which is America. Get it? They have to go through a journey in the underworld. That's them going what? Through the duat. Through the duat. Each character that they meet is different beings in the Egyptian underworld. That's who they meet in America. They have to find his other side, the soul's other side. The soul's other side would be what? The mind. The mind. They have to find the mind, which the goddess who we talked about earlier would be Lisa, which we can say is Hathor, which is married to who? Heru. In ancient Greece, we mentioned Persephone because it's very important as I unravel the movie. Persephone has to travel into the underworld and has to be brought back into the spiritual world by certain heroes, and she descends into the underworld, is trapped there because she gets attached to the fruit that she eats in the underworld. Now, the underworld, in this sense, I'm going to break down in a few minutes, is America. Lisa basically has to ascend, which she fell from where she originally came from, which is Africa. Then she fell where? To the underworld, which is what? America. She has to ascend from the underworld, which is America, back to her original home, which is what? Africa, West and Central Africa, which is Zamunda. To finally be able to find Persephone in the underworld, like we said, is out of the Greek myth. But to be able to find the goddess Sophia, if you want to go to the Christian and Gnostic mysteries, the Christ has to be able to go into the physical world and find Sophia and help Sophia ascend back into the spiritual world. So when he gets to America, he has to find Lisa, which represents the higher Sophia. The higher Shekinah is the Kabbalistic tradition would say, the higher Shekinah. And he has to abandon the lower Shekinah or the lower Sophia, or transform the lower Sophia into the higher Sophia. So Izzy, the princess of the other kingdom, is the lower Sophia. You see, the non-intellectual, the non-spiritual Sophia. But Lisa, that name Lisa comes from the Greek and Latin name of the goddess of Persephone, called Elisa or Elisa or Elisa. And that root word takes you to the Elelusian mystery of Elijah, which is the Elysian fields, which is basically heaven. It's called the realms of the blessed. That is the realm that the goddess attains, and that is the embodiment of Persephone, that Shakti or that female divine principle. So Lisa is the higher Sophia, or the higher attainment of self-realization or self-knowledge. That's what the movie should symbolize if we're dealing with African spirituality or any Asian or even Christian spirituality, right? Or Abrahamic spirituality. It should represent the soul, which is our king, traveling from the higher spiritual worlds, having to go down into the underworlds, which is our human life. That's our human life. Going into the underworld, which is this physical world, finding the fallen Sophia and helping her ascend back to the spiritual world and being reunited in the spiritual world. In India, they talk about Krishna and Radha. Well, that's what this is. That's what we're talking about. Osiris, Isis, Horus, Hathor. That's what we're dealing with. That divine couple that make the union of the whole physical and spiritual world, which really is the true God, the true one God, called Atum. And in West Africa, we say Ma Lisa. So Prince Hakeem takes Lisa from America, takes her to the kingdom of Zamunda, and finally he has his royal marriage where he finds his soon-to-be queen, which she represents full awakening of spiritual knowledge, right? Remember, he said in the original movie that he did not want a ignorant and vain and mundane wife. He said in the original Coming to America, he needs a spiritual, intellectual, driven, divine wife. You see what I'm saying? That's adequate to be equal to him and guide him and illuminate and enlighten his reality. So in that sense, that represents his own other side, his own other half, which is the mystery of this whole material world. But we're speaking spiritually, not literally. Spiritually. Like we said, that represents your soul, which is the spark of your own individual consciousness that comes from the primordial world, and the mind and your body that you're in now, trying to reach a unity of awareness that you yourself are more than just this mundane and gross body. You really were once in union, your individual consciousness, your ego, your body, with the original God, the original self. And in the sense of this movie, from Zamunda. So that's Lisa having to realize that she initially and originally is from Africa. So she has to ascend back to heaven or Africa and be in union with her original self. So that is the pantheon of the movie. That is the pantheon of deities that's in the movie. That's what deities are embodied in each character. So with that, I'll be dropping more videos. Hopefully you subscribe. Hopefully this video was helpful. You learned something. But that's what it's all about. This is Brother High John. I'm going to be updated with you soon. Peace.